Yo, what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another video. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So everybody knows that one of the places in the United States that has been hit with the migrant crisis the most is Chicago, and not because Chicago is directly on a border receiving an influx of migrants, but because Chicago is a sanctuary city, and because sanctuary city status basically makes quote unquote every city a border city. Texas, who does not want all of the illegal migrants coming into their state, said, hey, you guys are taking them in? That's what's up. We'll send them right to you. At first, this was welcomed, but then as it endured and more migrants were sent to the city of Chicago, the amount of migrants began to exceed the ability of Chicago's resources and finances to be able to take care of them. Now, at the point where we are in history, Chicago is on a breaking point, barely able to handle the migrants that they have, while still continuing to get an unknown, unannounced amount of migrants every or any day. What's happening now is that because people are starting to see the infrastructure of the city break down, people are starting to see the increase in crime. Mayor Brandon Johnson's leadership has been called into question by the residents of Chicago. One of the things that caused Mayor Brandon Johnson's leadership to be called into question is just his handling of things. This is the guy that runs the city of Chicago like he is some type of tyrant. He doesn't give answers when people ask him questions. He tries to keep people as far away from the democratic process as he possibly can. He tried to institute measures to make it more difficult for people to come to city council meetings because they were questioning things that he was doing. He was told by people in Brighton Park that Brighton Park was full of chemicals. A test was done to see if the land needed to be treated or if it was even able to be built on at all. The report came back and showed that there was traces of chemicals like zinc in the soil, and Brandon Johnson was going to move forward with construction of the Brighton Park encampment. It took outside entities to stop that from taking place. Brandon Johnson, against the wishes of the people of the west side of Chicago, attempted to turn a Munson Park into a migrant shelter. That fell through, and he's now even getting sued by many of the black residents of Chicago, and has been such a horrible mayor that he's turned lifetime Democrats into Republicans, at least Republican voters, for this next upcoming election. So what we're going to do now is take a look at this article from ABC7, which says Mayor Brandon Johnson defends his handling of the Chicago migrant crisis. So before we get started with this, I'm going to ask you guys, how do you all feel about the way that Brandon Johnson has handled this migrant crisis? Does he get a passing grade or does he get a failing grade? Why or why not? Let me know in the comments section.
May have questions about my style, but don't question my leadership.
Mayor Brandon Johnson goes on the defensive over how he's handled the migrant crisis. With the lack of funds to open any new city shelters, Johnson would not say whether he will extend the February 1st deadline that evicts migrants from shelters after 60 days.
We're going to work really hard to continue to find as many options as we possibly can so no one has to be out on the street.
Earlier this week, Governor J.B. Pritzker said he's very concerned about the lack of new shelters for migrants in Chicago.
Now, what I find interesting is that J.B. Pritzker is very interested and very concerned in the lack of migrant shelters in Chicago. I'm curious as to why J.B. Pritzker isn't looking to put shelters all throughout Illinois. Why is JB Pritzker only worried about what's going on in Chicago? Now, what I find fascinating is that much of the criticism that people have about Brandon Johnson is that he's done too much for the migrants. And yet, JB Pritzker, for whatever reason, doesn't think that Brandon Johnson has done enough. The question that I need to ask, the question that I'd like you guys to take a crack at is, what is it that you all think that JB Pritzker expects of Brandon Johnson?
The state has allocated an extra $160 million to help, but Pritzker says he's waiting on the city for a plan.
The city has not told the state where they would like us to put our resources to build new shelters or help them build new shelters. So we can't help if they don't identify those locations.
Johnson says the city has.
So as you guys can see, and as you guys know, throughout this migrant crisis saga, Chicago, New York, Denver, all of these places, they've all been very specific why they need money and what they want to put money into. So for JB Pritzker to then get in front of the camera and throw Brandon Johnson under a bus and say he has no idea how he's going to spend the money, very telling of what kind of character JB Pritzker is. Let me ask you guys in the comment section, especially people from Chicago, but just anybody that's an observer, what kind of character do you guys think that JB Pritzker is? Let me know what you think.
It's given the state several shelter location sites, and the mayor reminded the governor the state could use the money to build a shelter anywhere.
Shelters do not have to solely be set up and built in the city of Chicago. The state can do it wherever they want.
Despite the back and forth, Johnson says he and the governor are not at odds with each other over the migrant crisis. Meantime, Edgewater residents sent a letter to the mayor demanding that the Broadway Armory be returned to the neighborhood as a community center. For the past 6 months, it has housed over 300 migrants.
There was so many programs at the Armory that have been shut down. We've been really left out of the loop, per se. We've reached out to the city numerous times.
The city promised residents it would reevaluate the Armory as a shelter by February 1st, but 48th Ward Alderman Lenny Hoppenworth doubts the building will be returned to residents anytime soon.
The Broadway Armory is going to continue to be a migrant shelter, but that is not going to stop us from continuing to talk to.
Wow, so they just basically took the Armory, and despite the fact that they had made the promise that they would evaluate returning it on February 1st, they just said, nah, we're going to keep it. This is one of the reasons why people have a problem with this stuff. These politicians are not keeping their word.
Our colleagues and our administration.
And there are 28 migrant shelters in Chicago, and all are full. Earlier this week, the mayor met with about 25 suburban mayors. He asked for their help with the crisis in any way they can. And the city may be helped a little bit because the buses have slowed down. I think today they expected one.
Yeah, wait till the warmer.
So there's that. So it seems like JB Pritzker is questioning Brandon Johnson's leadership. The residents of Chicago are questioning Brandon Johnson's leadership. Migrants are questioning Brandon Johnson's leadership. And you guys know on this channel, we've been questioning Brandon Johnson's leadership. But now it's time for you guys to weigh in. Let me know what you guys think of Brandon Johnson's leadership. Is there any positive attributes about him at all? Let me know everything that you all think that he's done wrong right here in the comment section. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you guys haven't smashed the like button, please take a moment, smash that like button. If you guys haven't hit the bell, please take a moment, hit that bell, and help grow the channel by sharing the video to your social media. And make sure that you guys hit that box in the lower right hand corner right now. All right, peace.